Good morning, everybody. I wanted to just welcome Eric today as part of our Health and Social Media Week here at the college. So I'm not going to talk much, so I'll hand you over to Eric Stoller.
I love a short introduction. Yeah. I go to all these professional events and they have to read like my whole professional biography, and it takes like half a day and everybody's asleep before it's over. By the way, thanks for sitting in the back. Those seats cost half as much as the ones up here. I may move around just so I can talk to you all because you're really far away. I mean, I'm tall, so it's cool. I can actually see back there in the cheap seats. Thanks for filling in this gap here. For a second there, I thought that these people over here didn't get along with everybody in the back, but it's all good. Also, I was told that you all might not talk to me, which, you know, they're talking to me, so we've already broken through that. He's taking a picture of my shoes because apparently they're reflective, which I never think about it, so thanks for reminding me. Also, I'm glad everybody's wearing lanyards because, man, they're hardcore about that at the entrance. I tried to get in through the back way, which didn't work so well because my Uber driver brought me there. So I'm going to talk to you all about social media and kind of how I've used it to build my career, kind of shape my career, and how it connects to health and wellness and just sort of your own digital identities. Sort of the cool thing I noticed right away is that, you know, when I walked in, because first of all, when I first got here, there was nobody here. And I thought this is going to go really well. Because I'll just talk to a bunch of empty seats. And then when you all came in here, everyone's on their phones. And let's be honest, some of these phones are gigantic now. You can't fit them in your pocket whatsoever. You know what I'm talking about, especially with the case that you've got. Ridiculous. Yeah, it's massive. Don't worry, no, I'm not picking on you. But, you know, how much of your time is spent on your phones? You'd probably say quite a bit, I'd imagine. 5 minutes? 5 minutes a day, that's it. Wow, that's some hardcore. She's not telling the truth whatsoever. 5 minutes. I bet the nice thing is if you go on and you have an iPhone, especially right now, you can check, you know, how much time you are on your phone and what apps you're using. And it gives you a lot of insight too in terms of how much of your day is sort of plugged into these things. And I do this for a living, so I sort of think, okay, I'm doing it for work and I'm online all the time and I'm taking pictures of my baby and, you know, it's sort of acceptable. But at the same time, I like getting out and being disconnected as well. This talk is entitled Be Socially Smart, which, you know, there's a lot in that title in terms of what counts for being smart and what doesn't. But really it's about sort of how you use social media, specifically in this talk, for success, you know, academically, career-wise, as well as connections to well-being. Now, this gentleman up here was asking me if I'm verified. And I told him, well, on a slide, anybody can be verified because it's called Photoshop. But I am verified on Twitter. I had to kind of work for that. And so if you wanna tweet, if you're on Twitter, that's cool. If you're not, no big deal. But if you want to tweet or follow me, hit me up. It's at Eric Stoller. Autocorrect is going to destroy my last name. It's going to change it to Stroller. Which, you know, I have a baby, I have a stroller, but I'm not a stroller. It's really awkward. Someone made a fake Eric Stoller account on Twitter once, so it's there. If you look at that account, it's actually a picture of like a pushchair as an avatar. It says that it can't go up and down escalators, which, by the way, as a parent, you can totally take a pushchair up escalators. It's terrifying, but you can do it. Now, it's funny how my whole talk, basically, they designed it earlier. They didn't know it, but that's what happened. Because you asked me earlier, you said, where are you from? I said, what do you mean? She's like, are you from America? I'm like, what gave me away? You know, maybe my accent, maybe just slightly. No, I am from the States. I came over, not from a field, but sort of, in 2014. I grew up in Iowa, which is like similar to Lithuania, in that most people have no idea where it's at. He gave me that joke, actually. I'll pay you back later. But seriously though, my career has been sort of one thing after another related to technology and social media and being on the web. And I never thought about it as sort of being, this is what I want to do. It sort of evolved over the years. And I think that if you get one thing out of this talk, just realize that sometimes your career path, your path to wellness, it might not sort of look like it's going to go in a certain direction at the beginning, but, you know, just sort of go with it and see what happens. I'm nearly British now, though. I'm working on my accent. I got 2 years or so before I can apply for citizenship, which means I really got to figure out how to make tea. Because I still don't know. I drink coffee, like brewed coffee. So I want to give you a little bit of insight into sort of who I am in terms of my education and my work, because I think it's really important to know kind of like where I come from and why I'm talking to you. Because really, if it weren't for social media, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be talking to you all. I wouldn't be allowed to work in the UK. I wouldn't be doing my thing. So I went to a community college, which is sort of similar to like a further education college, but in the States. I did 2 years there. I played trombone in the jazz band. It's fantastic. I was a super nerd. Nothing has really changed. And then I went to the University of Northern Iowa, and I used to work at a university in Chicago, and then I used to be a student and an employee at a university in Oregon, of all places. Anybody ever been to Oregon? No. Yeah, I kind of figured as much. That's okay. And Iowa. Anybody know where Iowa's at? He's shaking his head like, yeah, I know. Nah, you don't know. It's okay. A what? Yeah. It's not Hawaii, it's not Idaho, it's not Ohio. Yeah. So I often get asked, what do you do? What is your job? And if someone asks you in the professional work world, what's your job? You're sort of expected to have a quick answer, right? Like 30 seconds, this is what I do, this is how I earn a living. I have the darndest time answering that question because my job is made up, right? I made up my job. Basically, one day I said, you know what, I'm gonna quit my regular job and I'm gonna go into consulting. And what I do is I speak to people, I write, and I'm on Twitter all the time, Facebook and Instagram somewhat, and I blog a lot, and people pay me to do it. I know, right? I see your body language, it's cool. You're thinking, really, I can do that? Yeah, you can do that too. So the first thing I had to do though was I had to quit my favorite job to make up my job. So what I did was I had this really nice job at a university in the States. They were paying me a good salary. They even paid for my phone, which was at the time, I think it was a BlackBerry, which was terrible. But they still paid for it. And eventually I said, you know what, this job, I'm burning out. I'm working too hard. I need to do something different. So I quit my favorite job to basically become something that sounds so pretentious. But hopefully you'll understand here after a little bit of an explanation. So I quit my job to become a thought leader. Anybody know what that is? Yeah. You're like, well, you have thoughts and you talk to people. It's kind of what it is. Basically, you come up with ideas around certain topics. And I decided that I was going to talk about social media and how it relates to being a student, how it relates to being an academic, how it relates to being a professional. And I'm going to tell people how they can do it as well. So, I want to ask you a couple of questions, because I think part of what it means to be a thought leader and what it means for you all when you think about sort of the health relationship with social media or the wellness aspect is, you got to get really good at using it if you want to use it for your career, for employability. Because how many of you came to this talk to better yourselves? How many of you came to this talk to get some information that would help you as a student, as a person, and maybe going forward with your lives? Yeah. And I mean, how some of you were like made to come here? Is this like mandatory? Yeah. Or you get some sort of points, maybe like add it to some sort of thing. That's okay. Well, two things when it comes to using social media professionally. One is you got to be really good at talking to people. And it means you got to be able to go on video. So right now I'm being live streamed to Hayes. I don't even know where they are. Hello Hayes and hello Canteen to my like -2 viewers in the canteen. But you got to be able to speak. The other thing is, how many of you enjoy writing? Yeah. And how many of you not so much? Yeah. And the rest of them, so we got like 4 people raised their hands said they like writing, and then like 4 people that said they don't like writing. And the rest of them aren't telling the truth, or they just don't know. But that's okay, we gotta get some coffee. Because you were yawning hardcore earlier. And that's okay, I'm sleepy too. But part of my writing involves being on Twitter and connecting with a lot of different people around the world. The beauty of something like Twitter is you can connect with people wherever you are and wherever they are. I also am on LinkedIn. How many of you have a LinkedIn profile? I know, you just raised your hand in the most sheepish way, like, I don't want anybody else here to know that I have a LinkedIn profile. That's okay. The thing with LinkedIn is not exactly the most sexy social media platform, but it's really useful if you're thinking about the J-O-B. That's okay. The spelling test comes later. We'll get to more advanced words, like multi-syllabic words, in a second. And I also blog for a website called Inside Higher Ed. So that's a little bit about me. Now, how many of you use social media every single day? You're like, what's social media? Okay, I'll show a slide, I'll tell you. So, social media, yeah, sometimes when you want to talk about the internet, you just gotta have a picture of a cat. Because cats rule the internet. Sorry, dog people, but it's true. Now, do you recognize all these apps? Yeah, some of them. What's this one? Wow, we got some hardcore nerds in here. My people have come. I love Reddit. Reddit's so good. It's like the website was designed in 1990. Yeah, when none of you were alive, but some of you were. But it's hard to do the math when you get to be my age, because yeah. In 1990, I was old, so now I don't even know what. Yeah. What about this one? Pinterest, yeah. What do you look at on Pinterest? Shiny shoes, yeah. I used to look at tattoos a lot on Pinterest, like anchor tattoos and pictures of birds and artwork and all. What do you look at on Pinterest? She doesn't want to say, okay. So very fascinating stuff. What? Fashion, nails. I mean, same stuff I look at. Absolutely. Yeah. Hardcore bearding. Yep. Let's see, what else? We've talked about LinkedIn. What about Snapchat? How many of you use Snapchat still? Wow. Yeah. What do you think about the whole like Snapchat, Instagram thing? The same, right? Where it's like the Instagram basically stole all of Snapchat's ideas. So which do you like better, Instagram or Snapchat? I'm just hearing like blah, 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 blah. That's okay. So a lot of sort of Instagram and Snapchat here. Okay. Tumblr is kind of going away. But any of you still on Tumblr? Wow, hardcore. I like that. Tumblr's great. I like animated GIFs of pandas too, you know? Let's see, Instagram. What about WeChat? Anybody using WeChat?
I think I use Line.
What's that?
I deleted
Line? Yeah, WeChat's huge. It's like massive in China, especially. It's kind of like WhatsApp, but in China. Who uses Line? You used it once, just to say you did. Yeah, Line is like Snapchat, but from Japan. Yeah. What about this one? Weibo? Yeah, it's another Chinese social network. Twitter, what about WhatsApp? Is WhatsApp big here? Yeah. For work. Yeah. Interesting. And then Messenger, everyone has messengers because Facebook made you get it. Anybody still using Facebook? Really? Is it like mandatory? Or is someone making you do it, like your parents or something? What? Memes? Yeah. It's crazy because when you read about Facebook in like news articles and stuff, they'll say that young people aren't using it anymore. Yeah, I know, right? Let's see, and YouTube. Any other apps up here that you would add? Anything that's missing? What's that? The dating ones, like Interesting. I'll have to think about adding that to my galaxy of social media. Oh man. What's that? The thing is, there's so many apps. What's that? Yeah. Viber. Yeah. Well, I want to know what they're talking about. It's really good. What? Oh, okay. Well, we got to make your day. It's okay. All right. So lots and lots of different apps. And I think that the issue that sometimes people have when it comes to social media is because there's so many different apps and there's so many different ways in which you can interact with people, people forget, like, they feel this pressure to sort of be on all of them and to sort of be certain ways? I mean, how many of you have like fake Instagram accounts? Wow. So you have a Finsta. What do you put on your fake Instagram account? Nothing. You just have it. Yeah. See, we gotta have real talk later. Like, get to the bottom of these fake Instagram accounts. You ever? What's that? Oh man. I gotta put these people in the back because they're just troublemakers. Okay. Now, normally at this time in a talk, what I like to do, and usually I don't talk when, like, this is the longest corridor ever. It's like a bowling alley. Literally. Like, I could just, like, you know, bowling? No, it's an American thing. But I want to know why you're here. Like, what is it that specifically got you, like, out of bed or to campus today? What bits of information around social media do you want to know more about? Is there anything in particular? What are you curious about? What do you know more about? If you want to raise your hand, then I can come over to you with the microphone. Or you don't have to talk if you don't want to. Yeah? All right. That's okay. You can use the mic. It takes practice. That's okay. I'll relay what you say. Okay. So this is a good question. She says, how do you get paid for using social media? Because who wants to get paid for using social media? I see. Yeah. Everyone wants to talk about the money aspect. Okay. Well, the biggest thing for getting paid on social media is, as I found out anyway, is you have to have an angle, right? You have to have something that only you can do or that you're really good at. And so if you're really good with sort of fashion or art or sport or creative writing or humor, anything that sort of is your thing and it's your passion, that's what you want to get into. And you want to stick to it. But you got to write about it, you got to post about it, maybe you shoot video, maybe you take photos, and it's going to take some time. I started blogging way early, back in 2004. And in 2010, I was approached by a company to do paid writing for them, paid blogging. So it took 6 years before I got a paid blogging gig. And prior to that, I was just doing it because I was passionate about it. And then when Twitter came around in 2006, I joined Twitter a year later in 2007, and I thought it was terrible. I thought Twitter was like the worst social network ever. It was boring, there was nobody there. And yeah, it was all really bad. And it took like 3 years before I realized that the value of Twitter and a lot of other social networks was the community, right? Finding like-minded people who were also want to engage on a certain topic. And so my work is in FE and HE, right? Higher education, further education, education in general. And I found all these great people that I could connect with and learn from and sort of spin ideas off of. And eventually Twitter became basically my favorite platform for getting gigs. So I post a lot of information. I curate is what it's called, like social curation. Kind of like when you're on Pinterest and you're looking at what other people have shared. I look at all kinds of information out on the web and I share stuff back to people who follow me on Twitter. And then every once in a while, someone who follows me on Twitter will contact me and say, we'd like you to come to our campus and talk about whatever it is you've been sharing. And if you're lucky, we'll pay you. So today I got a bonus, right? I got tea as well, which is exciting. And a wireless microphone, right? These are all the benefits. So that's part of it. In terms of content production, you got to produce a lot. If you want to get paid to use social media, maybe it's through a job. A lot of times you all will work with businesses, maybe like internships. Do any of you have internships? But you're working, right? You use WhatsApp for work?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah? What do you use WhatsApp for at work?
Like group process and meetings.
Meetings, updates, sort of group notices? Yeah. So let's say you get really good at using WhatsApp for this particular job, and you realize that you could take your knowledge of WhatsApp for your job and train other businesses on how they could use WhatsApp to make their communications better. And all of a sudden, you've got a way to make money based on your knowledge of WhatsApp. Easy money, right? Because you know stuff that other people don't, just because maybe they haven't thought about it that way. And sometimes it's about just thinking about how you can use a social platform. Because some of you were talking about Line, right? Some of you use Line or Weibo or some of the other platforms that maybe didn't come out of Silicon Valley in the States. That knowledge is valuable because then you can maybe use that and say, when these platforms become really, really big in the UK, you're already there, right? If you're first somewhere, it can be huge. In higher education in the US, when I started out, I was really early on Twitter. I was really early on thinking about Facebook as not just a place where I could, post pictures of cats and ignore my mom. And I thought about how could I use it as an educator? How could I use it as a business person? So at one point I had something like 2,000 friends on Facebook. And I used it just for my business, just to promote what I was doing. People would hear me talk. They would connect with me on Facebook. I'd post something. Maybe they'd reshare it. Maybe they'd like it. One of their friends would see it. And then eventually, because of that, other people would bring me in for jobs. So part of it has to do with maybe if you're there first. So you can't be first, right, in some of these places. But you think about Instagram. How many of you follow some big name accounts on Instagram? Accounts that have like millions and millions of followers, right? And sometimes they're getting paid because they'll maybe say sponsored or promoted. It took them a while to get there, to build that up. And it's work. I mean, the answer to a lot of these questions about how do you get paid for this or that, it's just tons and tons of hard work and working harder than other people. And the cool thing is because, I'm 40, I'm forgetting how old I am. That's how old I am right now, right? So I'm 41. I put in so much work early on that the benefits are paying off now. And that's huge, right? The more work you put in now, and some of it is the foundational stuff. Being really good at writing, being really good at speaking. Like, do you want to get paid on social media? Be comfortable with this thing, right? Like this lightsaber that I'm holding, that's a Star Wars reference. I know I got some nerds in here, but get good at this because you can then translate that to being comfortable on camera, which then could be something that you maybe put on YouTube later on. Because how many of you are YouTubers? Any of you creating content on YouTube? You're creating content on YouTube. What do you YouTube about? What's your content?
Well, it's very boring. It's about politics.
You really sold it well. You said it's very boring. But it's interesting to some people, right? That's what you're hoping for. Like what's boring to some people might be really interesting to others. I mean, obviously I subscribe to a lot of YouTube videos about quality. I don't, that was sarcasm. But some people will. I mean, it's about finding your niche, right? Find that thing that you can do better than other people. Like how many of you watch YouTubers, right? Subscribe to people who create maybe vlogs on a daily basis. Any of you watch vloggers? Sometimes, yeah. And some of these vloggers get millions and millions and millions of views, right? On a single video. But it took a while for them to get to that place. And the thing is, they worked really hard to get to that place. It all comes down to your digital identity. When I was growing up, there was like no internet because I was in Iowa and it was like all cornfields and wild animals and whatnot. But then the internet eventually came around, and I started thinking about the things you would post online in connection to the real world. It used to be people would think about there's sort of online you and there's in-person you, and they're different. You have friends like that, like in person, they're very different than they are online or on social. But the reality is that social media is real life. And what you post online matters just about as much as what you post or say in person. Because you don't want to be fake online and then different in person or vice versa. And it relates to your well-being because, first of all, there's only one of you. Like how many of you have multiple accounts, right? Like different identities. Are you different on Snapchat than you are face-to-face? Yeah, a little bit. That's okay. Instagram, you got your fake Instagram account people, Yeah. You got your people who take screenshots on Snapchat. Oh, those are evil people. Yeah. But there's that wellness aspect. You ever feel like you're too connected? You ever feel like you're online too much? Not enough? Can't get enough. He needs to be plugged in. He needs a chip in his wrist. I think the cool thing with social networks today is that at least they're showing you how often you're online. Instagram is going to roll out a tool very soon that will show you how often you're on Instagram. Yeah. Facebook has that as well, and your phone has it too if you're an Apple user. Does Android have that too, where it shows you how much you're on your phone? Yeah. Have you ever looked at it and been surprised, been like, whoa, I gotta cut back? No, never, not gonna cut back. Nice. When they asked me to give this talk, they said, talk about safety when it relates to social media. And I was thinking, the biggest takeaway I have for sort of being safe online, or even what that means, is, use common sense. A few years ago, there was a story of a guy who was post pretty much whenever he'd go on vacation, go on holiday, and someone broke into his place. Because it was basically like him saying, hey, I'm away from my house for this long, I'm over, I can't remember whether it was like in Italy or something, and then someone broke into their house. And it's like common sense, right? Like, don't post that you're away from your place because someone might see it. Or, I used to work at universities in the States, and students, when they get really excited at the beginning of term, they would take a picture of their student ID, and then they would post it on Instagram or Facebook or on Twitter, and it had like their student ID number, which is like an access code basically to all kinds of things, right? So they were giving away information. So common sense is huge when it comes to your safety. And thinking about sort of the context of it, and if you post stuff that is valuable to you, it might be valuable to other people. And that's hugely important. The other thing too when it comes to well-being on social is just being nice. You ever come across people who are just mean on social? Snarky or just kind of not so friendly? I mean, biggest takeaway, if you want to make, and this comes back to maybe the careers piece, the employabilities piece, the hey, I want to get into a university someday kind of thing, is kindness matters, right? If you're kind to other people on the web, if you try to build other people up, it's going to help you in the long run. But if you sort of are critical all the time or negative all the time, kindness is huge on social media. Because you want to be that person where people say, hey, they're awesome in person as well as online. Now, I'm American, so you got to give me at least one awesome in a talk. I know. First time I came over here, I said everything was awesome all the time. Because Americans, we say that. Doesn't matter, like, oh, the ceiling is awesome. It's not, but we say that. So you don't get that joke. You know why? Because it's a cultural thing. When you are on social media, the context and the culture does matter a lot. So I have to be careful because I live in a different country than the one I grew up in, and I have to be careful about the things that I post because I have to think about the context of what maybe was funny in the US might not be funny over here, right? It might be hurtful, it might damage some other people, it might be upsetting to other people, and that's always important to think about. It can only take you a couple seconds to post something, it could hurt other people's feelings. And I've had students do this all the time, where they just don't think, right? Because how many of you are posting like 3 in the morning? Right? And you're posting whatever on Instagram, you're posting an update here or there, maybe on Snapchat, and let's say at 3 in the morning, you're not even up, you're not even standing up, right? Maybe you're in your bed, and you know what I'm talking about, right? Where you don't have the fully like long charging cable because you were too cheap to get a different one. You just have the one that came with it, your phone maybe, and it's like this long. So you're in the dark, your phone's like kind of stuck in perpetual auto rotate, and then you've got one eye open because your phone's too bright. You know what I'm talking about? Like the one eye open, you want to protect your vision because you can't see. I know it's creepy, right? You're thinking, how does he know? How does he know that I'm in there? But you're in the dark, you've got one eye open, and maybe you're not thinking about what you post at 3 in the morning. So you got to develop these habits around sort of thinking, what's the context? Who am I helping here? Who maybe am I hurting when I'm posting stuff? Because all of it matters. I think one of the things that people have really gotten used to when it comes to social over the years now is the fact that you've got this massive digital footprint. Massive digital footprint. How many of you have your accounts sort of locked down? All private, all the time? What's that? No one can find his Facebook, so there's a challenge. He's got a Facebook. Yeah. So you've got your Facebook locked down. Anybody else got, like, what other accounts do you have locked down? Instagram is locked down. What other accounts? You're so far away, I can't even. I'm just gonna keep walking. Instagram. I don't let anybody connect with me on Instagram except maybe friends and family, because most of my photos are of my son. And I used to have it wide open. My Facebook is the same as his. His is actually, what's your account name on Facebook? You're actually going to tell them? I thought it was all locked down. Why would you tell them? Oh, okay. They'll find it, don't worry. Big challenge. What I've found over the years, though, is if you put something on digital, even if you've got it locked down, even if you have like 5 friends or just a few connections, and you say something really stupid, right? You say something really dumb, you say something that can be really damaging or hurtful, is this stuff has a tendency to sort of leak out. It has a tendency for people to take screenshots or to find its way out to more public spaces. And so it's about how can you sort of think about being smart and kind and not hurtful, even if you've got your accounts on lockdown. Because, you know, I did that spelling test earlier where I talked about the J-O-B. And, you know, what you guys post, what you post now can have tremendous impact and influence later on. Now, some of you, what's like the youngest person in the room today? You're like outing them, aren't you? Okay. 16 maybe? Yeah. You look good for 16. Yeah. So we were six. So the youngest person in the room was 16. I used to be 16 once. I was like 6 feet tall. I weighed like 100 pounds because I could eat cake all day and it didn't matter. And I was invincible. And I thought that, you know, whatever I did at age 16, it wouldn't impact at all what I'm doing today. And that's probably true back then. But the challenge now is that whatever you post today, it can have lasting impacts. And you see this time and time again. Have you ever Googled your name? Yeah? Interesting stuff? Pictures? Yeah, your criminal record, you know, no big deal. Yeah, one of many, your aliases, yeah. Yeah, it's important to think about what you post, you know, because even if you delete stuff, it kind of sticks around. And that's a huge aspect of today's life where, you know, you don't want 5 years from now, 10 years from now, someone to look at a post and say, oh yeah, we're not going to hire that person. I've seen this all the time in the professional world where people won't hire other people because they'll look at their social profiles, or they'll Google their name and they'll see some bad stories, maybe they're up there. So it's important to think about the foundation that you lay today really matters. Like, how many of you own your own website? So there's some potential there. Yeah. Getting your website is huge. So first and foremost, if you go to Uxbridge, this is totally an edited tweet, by the way. Slightly photoshopped. But the thing is, if you have your own website, and it's your name, and your name is kind of unique, like there are like 11 people named Eric Stoller in the US. So not a ton, but kind of a few actually. But if you Google Eric Stoller, my website comes up, my Twitter account, my LinkedIn, my YouTube, all my social channels, all content that belongs to me. The story of me is out there, and it's all my stuff. So if I'm trying to get a job, if I'm trying to get into let's say a PhD program in my case, it really does matter where I post it because people can find it. And a really good trick is if you get something like yourname.wordpress.com and you populate that blog with content specific to you and your story and your passion areas, if I Google your name, that's what's going to come up almost every time. So if you get there first, if you say, I'm going to own my name, not just in person, but on the social web, on the digital web, that's really, really important. So like I have ericstoller.com, .net, and .org. And so if you Google my name, that's what comes up. You know, I talk about time and putting in the effort. And you know, when you say, let's say I want to get paid to do social media, it's what you do that matters, right? If you say I want to get paid, if you say I want to make it big on social media, if you say I want to do social media as part of my career, I want to, you know, be a writer, I want to be a speaker, a YouTuber, a creator, all these things. Talk is cheap. You got to actually do it, right? You got to create the content. You got to post the videos. You got to take the photos. You got to edit that stuff and put it up there. And it takes work and it takes time. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. People pay me to write blog posts. 500 words, 600 words. Easy stuff, really. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. How many of you use Twitter? Yeah, I found the younger the crowd, the fewer the people that use Twitter. And it makes total sense, right? Because Twitter's not the coolest thing, right? Because if your friends are on Twitter, maybe you're not using it, etc. But how many of you are going to go from Uxbridge College straight into the working world? A few of you. You can totally use Twitter for career purposes. When I came to the UK, so in 2014, my wife and I were living in Boston. We weren't there that long. My wife gets this email from her company. Her company's global, they're worldwide. And they say, hey, we want you to move to London. We want you to come to London and do communications for our CEO. So it was a big deal. It was a really big deal for my wife for her job. And my job at the time was still my made-up job, right? My consulting job, the job that I love, the job where I get to wear my reflective Nikes, be comfortable, wear flannel a lot. I said, I don't know anybody in the UK. This is going to be bad for my business. And so what I did is I got on Twitter and I followed a ton of people in the UK higher education scene, the university scene, colleges, FE, all that stuff. And then I also connected with people on LinkedIn. And it took a little while, it took about a year, but it's how I learned about the sector. Because things are different, right? We speak the same language in the US as over here, but it's different. So I was able to use Twitter for my career. So what Twitter might not be cool at all, LinkedIn especially might not be cool, but think about how it can be useful for your job, for your career prospects. They call it your personal brand. Have you ever heard that phrase, personal brand? Personal brand sounds a little sort of corporate maybe, but at the end of the day, it's about who you want to be represented on the web. Is it you? Is it a version of you? What's the story that's out there? So how does it connect to your future? Well, as I've sort of outlined already, being professional, it's kind of nebulous in a way. Like, because how many of you, when you leave Uxbridge College, you maybe go into university, or maybe you just leave here directly and go into work, you want to go into the working world, you want to be a professional, but you want it to be sort of on your terms. Does that sound appealing at all? What do you think? I know, right? That's the problem with those wireless microphones. If you smile, I can come over here and be like, they've been laughing the whole time, and I'm not that funny. Troublemakers. Okay, so now I think only one or two of you were on LinkedIn. No matter what you do, you all got to be on LinkedIn. Establish that profile. Put in your contacts. Put in your experience. Because how many of you have jobs right now? Like part-time jobs and stuff? Making some dough. I mean, if you work for a pizza shop, you're literally making dough. That was the worst joke ever. But here's the thing. If you get on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is more than just your resume. LinkedIn is like this amazing networking tool for you to get your name out there, to get your experience, to get what makes you awesome out there to the working world. And the more you learn about how LinkedIn works today, the easier it gets. Like, get there first. So I have like 13,000 connections on LinkedIn. It's a lot of people. And I don't know 13,000 people. I don't know all of them. But when I post content on LinkedIn, I get a huge number of people who like my posts, who comment on my posts. And then that further leads to me getting more jobs. Right? If you think about how I use social media, it's a formula that you could just use based on whatever it is that you're good at. I just happen to be good at talking about teaching, learning, digital engagement. And so I post those things, share those things, and that's what I get jobs for based on social. By the way, this is a scene from Star Wars. Came out a long time ago. Which movie? The first one, yeah. You failed the test. That's okay. That's the second one. But I always say to crowds, what's that?
You should say, go ahead.
You're way too shy. Yeah. She says, Luke, I'm your father. That's the one, yeah. That's kind of like how it feels for some people on LinkedIn, right? It's just boring and their hand gets cut off. Well, maybe the hand doesn't get cut off, but it's kind of boring. But the thing about LinkedIn and the thing about Twitter is that It's what you make of it, right? These social tools are only useful for what you make of them, right? If you want to post pictures of cats, well, and you want to get paid for what you do with cats, then you better be very good. You know, you think about those accounts that make money. Like, do any of you follow the Doggist on Instagram? The Doggist, D-O-G-I-S-T. They started just posting pictures of people with their dogs. Really clever, right? Really clever, deep stuff. People with their dogs on their leashes, and a lot of them were in New York, and they'd post like, here's the dog, here's its name, here's its breed. Thousands of posts. Millions of followers on Instagram. They have a book deal. They get all kinds of sponsored stuff. They work with some of the big like pet food companies that are out there. They make serious cash because of an idea that they had where they literally just take pictures of people's dogs. I know. And you think, wow, it's so easy, and it just takes work. I think sometimes people, like the older you get, it's harder to sort of experiment and think creatively, I think. For me anyway, because I think, people tell me that this is what it means to be a professional, and you're this age, etc. You shouldn't do these things, trial and error. But here's the thing. If you want to get good at using social media for just yourself, right? Digital well-being, engagement, careers, employability, trial and error, experiment. Like I'm pretty decent at making videos and posting them on YouTube, but I'm nowhere near as good as other people because I'm always sort of anxious about, well, maybe my video's not good enough. Maybe my content's not good enough for YouTube, so I don't post it. But perfection leads to stagnation. You gotta try things. Like, here's a guy, I don't know him, but I'm gonna give him a shout out. His name's David Shield. Any of you know David? Of course, that's you don't know him. She raised her hand. No, you didn't. I'm being sarcastic. David Shield is a university student at a school. See, here's the problem. In the US, we say school, university, and college. They all mean the same thing. It's really confusing when you come to the UK. But David's graduated from Georgia State University in December, and he's looking for his first sports reporter anchor job. So you know what he did? He tweeted this out and he said, hey, retweet this, people. And it's his highlight reel of his work. And he got 63,000 retweets and 80,000 likes. And I guarantee you he's going to get a really good job once he graduates, in part because of this highlight reel that he posted on Twitter. And here's the thing, he had to put together the video, he had to know how Twitter works, he had to know how to create content that was going to work on Twitter, but it's going to lead to something great for him. And he's such a nerd, too. So, my final slide, I think I have about 6-7 minutes to go, we can get some quick questions in, is if you want to get good at using social media for whatever you want to get good at doing with it, you got to make the time. And be bold, Don't do things that are going to hurt other people. But boldness isn't about hurting other people, it's about lifting other people up, right? Doing bold things on the web, fun things, silly things, exciting things. And then remember, context is everything. If you post something and you think, you know what, I could get in trouble for this, or you know what, my parents might be disappointed, or you know what, I might be disappointed later on if I look at this 5 years down the road. Think about that for a second before you post stuff, before you comment, before you share, you tweet, Instagram, etc. So I got 6 minutes, I think, 7 minutes. And I want to get some questions. What else do you want to know? What are some things that you'd like to hear about with regards to using social media? What do you got, front row? You got any good questions? Yeah?
Do you like your job?
Do I like my job? I love my job. My job, see, normally I'm much more energetic, but I have a 17-month-old at home. He woke me up at like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 a.m. in the morning, which is sort of redundant to say a.m. in the morning, but that's because when you're tired, you don't say things as articulately as you'd like to. But my job, I got to make up my job, basically. I got to say, okay, when I work full-time, these are the parts of my job that I liked, and these are the parts that I didn't like. And social media came along, and I got to say, okay, you know what, I can take my skills that I honed in the real world, kind of in the face-to-face world, and put them into the social space. And it's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I wake up every day, I get to basically play for a living, right? I get to experiment, I get to post things, I get to create, I get to write, and I get to think, and then share those ideas with other people. Yeah. How much does an average YouTuber get, like money-wise? Most YouTubers don't make a lot of money. Yeah, it's a very sort of like huge mountain of people that don't make much money, and a very small percentage that make what we'd say maybe like livable money, right? Like money that they could actually pay the bills on a daily basis. There's a lot of creators out there though. And some of it has to do with, you know what? You could be what they call a micro-influencer, where maybe you create some really amazing content and a company sees what you've created and they think, you know what? You don't have 1 million followers, but you have just enough followers that will give you some cash to help promote something or maybe partner up with us. And that happens a lot on the social web, but it has to be a specific topic, right? Like, where's my quality YouTuber? She left, it's okay. Not enough quality, but she took off. You know, maybe she doesn't have a lot of viewers, maybe she doesn't have a lot of subscribers, but it's niche, right? It's about finding that niche and then exploring that niche. And that can be really valuable. Because I'm not just on YouTube or Twitter, I'm on YouTube, Twitter, Medium.com, I have my own website, I blog at other spaces, I do podcasts, because it's about sort of creating content on a variety of different platforms. Yeah.
What made you think pink?
What made me think pink? I mean, why not pink, first of all? No, what made me think pink is, maybe this is a really nerdy answer to the question, but what I always like to do is when I get asked to speak at a university or college, is I'll take a look at the color scheme of that place, what they're doing on the web. And when I looked at Uxbridge College on Twitter and on your website, there was like a teal and a pink and a yellow. I thought, I'm gonna go with pink. It's got good visibility. Yeah. So, because part of my job too is graphic design, right? That's the other thing, is the design element of things. And so you've been thinking this whole time, why pink?
Just, you know, power of positivity. Just, you know, it's bright, it's vibrant, it's happy.
Yeah,
It's
well,
all about the kindness, really, isn't it?
well, you never know too if the room is going to be really bright. As a speaker, the room is really bright. Certain colors get washed out because the sun hits the screen, and so you know it's all about contrast too. Because that's huge. Yeah, I know. I think about these things. What else? Oh, you asked about Twitter verification earlier, and now Twitter is still sort of verifying accounts on a very limited basis. It's hard to get an Instagram account that's verified. You got to work really hard to get that. A lot of people have done it by way of knowing someone who works for Instagram. Twitter will let you get verified now. I think if you're more of like a media journalist, if you're in the press, that type of thing, or if you're a celebrity. Like if one of the Kardashians is in the room, then you're probably going to get verified, if not already. There's a question, I think. Yep. So the question is, what do I think about social media within 5 to 10 years' time? I think what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years' time is we're going to see massive changes. I think there's a real chance that Snapchat's going to disappear. I know, huge downer for some of you people. I know. But here's the thing, Snapchat as a business is kind of terrible. Snapchat as a platform for users is a lot of fun, but as a business, they struggle with figuring out ways to make money that makes advertisers happy. So I think Snapchat might actually disappear. I think we're going to see Facebook's probably going to fire Mark Zuckerberg coming down the road, or he's going to leave. And then Facebook, who knows, it might disappear. 5 to 10 years' time, it's a long time in terms of internet and technology. I think Twitter might get purchased by a bigger company. I think we're going to continue to see really cool things happen though, for like virtual reality, augmented reality, you know, the technology that we can do with our phones, it keeps getting cooler and cooler and different and neater and whatever. Yeah, it's kind of cyclical in a sense. So you see sort of this rise of social media. You know, Facebook has like 2 billion plus active users worldwide. That might change. It's kind of a bubble that might pop. But I think core things, writing, creating, producing, being creative in the sense of video or imaging,
That's always going to be good no matter what the apps are. So if you build that fluency today based on the apps that we have now, you can then parlay that fluency and experience into whatever app platform becomes the next big thing down the road. So it's about building the skills now. Like LinkedIn, for example, I don't care about LinkedIn. LinkedIn could go away tomorrow, but the skills and the platform, what I've built with it today, are valuable for me right now. And that's what I care about. I think I have to finish up. So thank you very much for your time, your questions, and participation.
Thank you.